sort of shot myself in the foot about just oversimplified
Spotify.
Spotify. just cut that.
Just like you just play music and got a playlist, haven't you? How hard can it be?
Hello and welcome back to Roadmap. I am Ben, Product Director at Autotrader, and I'm going to be chatting to two of my colleagues from the Product and Technology Leadership team about a topic that we collectively spend what feels like an awful lot of time talking about, which is how we're organised across the P&T community. So Ben, Chris, can you give a quick intro to yourselves and what you do at Autotrader?
I'll go first.
You go first.
I'm a Product and Tech Director, which is a vague title, which means I do kind of all sorts of things, but I'm involved in how we set up and run products and tech, which we'll talk about. Currently got kind of a closer association with the design and research part of that organisation, and then involved in project work in a variety of ways as well. But I suppose for the purposes of today, I'm involved in how we run P&T and how we make sure that's effective.
I'm Ben McCarthy. I'm Engineering Director. I've been here like 14 years. Chris and Ben, I sit on the P&T leadership team, and we spend a lot of time on how we're organised, how we shape, how we prioritise, what work can we get done. I think that's what we're going to talk about today.
So Ben, when we say the product and technology community, can you help our listeners understand a bit about what we mean by that? So how many people, what do they do, how they're organised, brief overview of the types of scope and technology that's involved.
So we are either just a little bit under or a little bit over 400. I'm not sure what the exact number is. That's made up of multiple disciplines. So as we're organised at the moment, we class ourselves like a product and tech community. Inside there, we have numerous disciplines such as product design, data science and analytics, and then the biggest part of that community is engineering, which is around 300 people. And even in that's so big, we've kind of broke that down a bit, and that's broken down into 5 domains, which are retailer, which is all the stuff our customers use, consumer, which is all the stuff like we use as consumers, the website, the apps. We've got CX, which is looking at our internal tooling and processing, how we work with customers, colleagues, and
consumers.
The 3 C's. Then I like to think of it like a T. So you've got them 3 there, like the big outward facing things. Then we've got a bit in the middle called core, which are like core services like search and stuff like that. Then below we have a platform team, which look after our delivery platform and our data platform. So within the engineering, we've got multiple mixes, like different people. We've got front-end engineers, we've got full-stack engineers, we've got data engineers, we've got test engineers, we've got a few traditional test analysts in certain places where we need that more rigorous manual testing.
And they're looking after about 700 apps.
I was talking about this the other day, about 752 roughly services we have in production. So that's very much like a product of how big Autotrader is and how we've organised and architected our systems. And we do about 80,000 releases a year as well.
That's a big number.
We do quite a lot.
So Chris, lots of our listeners will probably work in modern tech companies that look a bit like Autotrader, maybe not quite as big as Ben mentioned, or maybe even bigger. And most of them will probably work in some sort of type of cross-functional agile team that has become established as the way of delivering products and software. But it hasn't always been like that. I think we're all showing our age a little bit when we can reflect on the kind of journey of agile and product and technology and all of that over the last decade or so. But maybe you could talk through a little bit in the journey that we've been on through our different kind of operating structures, squads, tribes, to where we are today as a product and tech community.
Yeah, so I think many people will recognise the overall transformation that software development really has been on. So if and this is kind of similar to the journey that Autotrader's been on. So if we look back, I suppose it's not evenly distributed, but 20 years or so in the world, there was a definite dominance of people being organised by function. So you might have a marketing function or a commercial function. you might have an IT function, a sales function, and these kind of operated in siloed fashions, and somebody would decide we had a commercial objective, and then they would write a business case maybe. That business case might then result in an agreement to fund a project. That might result then in a document being produced that tried to specify all the
I
requirements
wrote
of
quite
that.
a few of those back.
So yeah, I have as well, where you try and list out many bullet points and tables, all the things that might possibly be required,
and then just hope that 6 months later you would get something matching those.
I think then worse is like an engineer,
you receive that.
you just received it.
Yeah.
It's like there is all the requirements forever. I'll see you in 3 years.
Yeah.
And that was from like the product person.
Or preferably 2 years, because we've decided it'll take 2 years to deliver this
Yeah, because
Word document. So 2 years, please. Yeah.
and we've sold it after a year as well.
And that's what
So this
many
kind of
people would have
waterfall.
called waterfall.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So this this set of stages where you didn't respond to change. Obviously, the world changes all the time, and there was an expectation that kind of somebody was in charge, and then it got handed off through
Someone else who was in charge.
So yeah, and then like somebody else eventually had delivered it, and it might be wrong or it might be right in the end. Probably wrong. And the evolution, I guess, was, so there was stuff much earlier in this kind of extreme programming type stuff, but a general evolution of thought coming out of software engineering, really, that there was a better way than this, and that by having smaller teams who were closer to the problem and working more closely with people who wanted the work done or the value to be delivered, and doing so in an iterative way and adjusting course as you went, you would both more reliably achieve a useful outcome, and crucially, I guess, people would be happier as well because they weren't recipients.
And a better outcome.
Yeah,
The product was often better.
better, faster, happier. That this kind of like
Daft
this
Punk
kind
album.
of way of working. I'll break into song. Yeah. So Autotrader also went on that journey, and moved from kind of being a functionally based organisation to one that thought about those cross-functional teams and how those teams would be responsible for delivering work in an iterative way, which has got us to this point that Ben describes. Obviously, there are loads of kind of iterations of that as well. So I guess one of the things maybe we'll talk about is that organisation design is a bit like Agile. Like, it's not a thing where you write a document and then 5 years later you implement it. You're always learning and observing and kind of retrospecting on what works and evolving as you go. But I think that single shift is probably the biggest shift from this kind of waterfall process to one that's much more.
Yeah, I think when I first
collaborative.
joined, and that was because I did leave for a little bit, that was like 16 years ago. You know, we had ThoughtWorks in, we were moving more towards that agile stuff, but it was still kind of structured. Like, the product was here, tech was there. It was very much on the engineering side. We were looking at the agile ways. They were getting pulled in closer. We still were pretty separate, and then I left for like 18 months, 20 months, and I came back, and it moved on quite a bit, and I think that's where we're probably going to get to the next eras, the next Taylor Swift era of like Spotify type model when I came back, so 12 years
And
ago.
that feels like, you said, there's probably been like several smaller evolutions which we may come on to talk
Yeah.
about, but there were that move from kind of functional based disciplines handing off work in a waterfall fashion to organising around cross-functional like squads or tribes and adopting kind of agile software principles. That feels like one of the big eras that's happened, or the changes that happened along the way. So Ben, maybe you could talk a bit about like squads and tribes and how it worked for a period of time, and then what were the things that we started to observe in that squads and tribes model that made us like move forward and, as Chris said, like begin to constantly review and evolve how we're structured.
So like Chris talked about, like the whole like way to build software had dramatically changed to like this agile stuff. All the agile manifesto came out. Everyone was like recognizing it. You had the people who were doing it but weren't quite doing it, and said they were agile but they weren't really agile. And like this, often like we refer to it internally. It's external as well. It's like it's the Spotify model, the fabled Spotify model, which or the Spotify paper. I was like, I don't even think there was a paper.
There was a paper.
There was a
but
paper.
They didn't use. They didn't do that.
And I think by the time I spoke to some people from Spotify, and I was like, oh, that was like 5 years ago. We don't do that now.
Yeah, and if I've learned out anything about org design, it's as soon as you've gone to the effort to draw something and write it down,
You've moved on.
You've moved on anyway.
Exactly.
So the idea behind that is like you get small cross-functional squads of people together, multiple disciplines, engineers, testers, BAs, product people, design, analysts. At the time we didn't really have data scientists at that point, and they were responsible for like a product or a product with some adjacent things around it, and that was the only thing they had to worry about. That was their whole mission. They like sat there like, this is what we're going to do, here's our product roadmap. And we did that, and we split the whole org into that across some tribes. So we went for the tribe model as well. So we had like the consumer tribe,
Which was a collection of squads.
a collection of squads, like maybe 12, 15 squads. We had one that I was in called CXO, which was customer experience and operations, so quite a bit of CXy. And our thing was like, we'll sit in between the rest of the org and the core of products and tech, and like look at the problems in internal tooling. So we were quite forward thinking at that time doing that. And that was a mixture of things like the billing system, our internal CRM tooling and stuff like that. And you sat there, you worked with your product, you worked with your tribe lead, and like come up with like, this is the roadmap of things we want to work on. And I was a tech lead at this point, and I used to look and go, God, that's a big roadmap. So we still had a bit. I think you still had a bit of this like very long, like, because you were just focused. This is what we're going to focus on. This is what we're going to build, and we'd go through it. But we did that, and we did it really well. And it has its benefits. Like, you have all these people are super engaged on what they're building. They get super deep like product domain knowledge, even in like the code. Like they're super deep on like where they are.
And if you give a group of people an identity and you tell them they're responsible for something,
They love it.
and they love it, and they become super passionate about that product and that opportunity above everything else, which is one of the advantages of that structure. Is it's great for delivering that really cohesive team of people, but they will create a backlog from now until eternity of things they can do to make that better.
I think about this quite a lot because I've been here quite long. And like around that time, Autotrader itself was going through a massive growth period. In that era, we'd floated, become a PLC, stuff like that, and he was always like, "What are we going to build? What's the next thing?" And what we kind of found, this is like the disadvantage I saw of it, was like we'd come up with a great idea to do something, and what we'd do was go, let's take a couple from there, and make a new squad. But the reality is maybe the squad's a bit too small, and the question's like, why is this taking so long? And it's like, then they go off and they create their whole roadmap, and eventually what happened was, I think we ended up with like 30, 40 squads at one point, and stuff was like often butting up against each other. So you'd have, still have a bit of this now, you're always going to have a bit of this, I think. It's just like a problem with org design. That's why you can never come up with a perfect model of, if you've got two teams who are like systems wise linked, and team A's got this roadmap, team B's got this roadmap, and they need something, or they need something from each other, that's always often all right if it's all each other, because like you can do a bit of bartering. But if it's one team completely depends on another, and they've got their own roadmap and they're like completely in on that, that's where it starts to like, you start banging heads against walls a bit.
And I guess this is, so one of the benefits of that kind of squad model is that by getting all the roles in there, we tried to create as much ability for that team to do everything they needed to do to be able to ship that thing, which I think is really, really, really successful. But as you say, it's less successful when teams then need to depend on each other, because you bring dependencies in between teams, so they're no longer as able as they were. And when those backlogs are not aligned, or the priorities don't align, then some of the bigger priorities that you're trying to achieve as a business feel like they go very slowly, because you need to align a lot of backlogs of different teams to try and achieve anything, when particularly in a business like, well, it's probably true everywhere, but in a business like Autotrader, there's very networked. There's lots of bits of the system that all work together. You need many people often to be doing things in concert across different areas.
So what did we do about it? How did we fix those challenges?
Well, I can use my favourite saying. It's 3 things certain in life, and it's death, taxes, and we love to look at our org structure and reorg at Autotrader. And that's I think it's a good thing we do.
Healthy,
that. It's super healthy. I get it comes with its own challenges and worries for people, why we reorg and stuff like that. But I think that I've always said we don't do this to create friction. We look and go, it's working, it's all working great. We're still achieving great things, but are we set up in the right way for what we need to do in 3 years, 4 years, 5 years?
So we realised that Squads was good at doing certain things, but it was making it challenging for us to do the bigger strategic initiatives that required several bits about the organised.
Stuff that crosses. So our price indicator product.
Yeah.
A great example. It's we have a team deep in the data engineering coming out figuring out how we're going to do the price indicator, whether it's good, great, value. Then you've got the retailer side of that, where they have to show that inside our retailer tooling, and how that works in there might be a slightly different execution that we do in the consumer. And around this time as well, we're going API heavy and integrators as well. So then you factor that, and that was owned by another team. So you've got 4 teams, and all 4 of them teams, from memory, were in different tribes.
Yeah.
So you've got team, local roadmap, tribe, priorities, and then you've got a clash there. You've got a clash at tribe level.
So in this tribe phase, so one of the phrases we used at the time was from squads to swarms. So we
famous
collected.
There's an excellent Medium article from Chris Collingwood, if anyone wants to reference that.
Absolutely right. Good. It's the best I've ever done, years and years and years ago. But so we organised into tribes that were a bit more flexible. So at the time when I joined, Ben and I were both in the tribe that was responsible for building things for customers. Yeah.
CTB.
Customer tools and billing. And that enabled us to flex the how much of the effort we put onto different things more than we had been able to with squad. So that enabled us to have some bigger teams doing some things and some smaller teams doing other things in a way that'd been hard with just having squads. And then I think so that also worked well. I think we made more progress against some strategic objectives there. And then I think, we started to feel the friction again a couple of years after that, as we started to do more things that cross tribes.
I think it's the thing I'm not sure we often talk about this, but that was you've gone through the squad tribe era into the swarm, product engineering, I was remember the big swarm era. That's a good 6 years of time.
Yeah.
And over that time, we got fundamentally bigger as an org, in every part. In this, especially in P&T, we've probably doubled in size over the last 6-7 years. Mm-hmm. And with that comes its own challenges as well.
Yeah, and I think so. Thinking about that squads to swarms phase, there were people challenges in there as well, weren't there? Mm. People were very used to being in a squad and feel a great sense of belonging in a team, which we know is really important. This is who you show up with and you talk to and you go out for lunch with. These are your team. And when we went to that bigger team, so customer tools and billing was about 50 people, was it? Yeah, so not massive, but bigger than 10. And there was some reluctance about you didn't know everybody, and you were going to be working on things that you didn't really know very much about, and were you going to feel a bit lost? I think we went through a bit of people change there, but people in the end found it was really interesting actually to get to work with other people and to explore more bits of the estate. So I think there was, but there's always a feeling that you're losing.
And we didn't say we don't believe in the concept of teams or cross-functional groups of people working together. We just said rather than viewing this tribe as a collection of this 50 people as a collection of 6 individual teams, we want to view them more as a collection of 50 people that we can kind of evolve how we work more continually to say we want to put more people on this thing to make it go faster, which means accepting that this other thing is going to go a bit slower, or we might even stop working on it.
100%, yeah, exactly.
And so that was our kind of swarm era, and I guess the kind of the journey that we've been on since then through a couple of the org evolutions that I've been part of. It feels like it's generally been continuing to find a way to organise cross-functional and cross-organisation groups of people on the most important things, recognising that we've got 400 people in P&T. You obviously need some structure around that. You can't just say like figure out who does what.
That's our biggest constraint, is like we don't go out and bring externals like contractors in to boost up because we've got a big thing we want to do. Like we have to make the decision, like we've got these, in my case, like the 300 engineers. What are the most important things for them to be like building and focusing on? What's the biggest business priority?
So that sort of brings us a bit onto prioritisation. So I guess on the product and technology leadership team, we spend a lot of time making sure that we've got people people working on making the most important things go as fast as possible. And one of the references we often use for that is a fruit bowl, which may be a bit tangential, but maybe Ben, you could tell us what the fruit bowl means in that regard.
So a fruit bowl is the concept of like it can only hold so much fruit before it starts getting unwieldy. And then we talk about, we'll keep using the fruit bowl, and I do always chuckle when we end up talking about fruit, is some things are really, really big, and they are often like our biggest priorities, and they are the things that are going to cut across multiple like facets of our org. And we often go, well, that's kind of like a pineapple.
Or a watermelon.
Or a watermelon.
Pineapple's spiky, isn't it? But maybe,
okay.
Yeah.
So this is what happens. We end up arguing at what fruit we use in this analogy.
A big fruit.
A big piece of fruit. So like they're the things that we think are the most important. So we put them in our fruit bowl first, and we say, okay, that's going to take this many people. We think roughly. We have the fluidity where we go, actually, it's not a mini watermelon.
It's not a cantaloupe.
It's a big watermelon. So we get them in, and then we look at things that aren't as big,
but it's still important. Because we're not saying we've got 400 people. We don't just do the three big priorities. There's loads of 750 services that need to be maintained.
Exactly. We've got the ongoing maintenance cost of everything, because we've got 750 services, and we have to keep them updated and secure and patched. So we're looking at everything that's come over, everything that's a priority, and we go, okay, well, this one is a pear, it's an apple, right, we can get them into the bowl. And then we look and go, right, okay, there's also great ideas that we want to do. What can we fit into the bowl? And there, there might be blueberries or grapes or strawberries.
Other small fruit.
Small fruit.
Yeah.
Not occasionally. So what did you say when we're talking about it?
Pomegranate seeds.
Pomegranate seeds.
Yeah. Some things are like that, aren't they? They are.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that we talked when you were talking about how squads ended up getting like split into bits and bits and bits when we were in that era, that there's always too many great ideas. So we're ambitious as a company. We want to get things done. We've got very much a get on the front foot, start a thing, make progress attitude, but there is a limit to what we can do, and we end up being ineffective if we try and do all the things, because the good ideas list is enormous, like vast. So yeah, some kind of approach where it says, let's make sure we get the cantaloupes and the watermelons to make enough progress, and don't just end up with pomegranate seeds.
I think it's a good reference back to Squads and Tribes. I feel like what Squads was good at was delivering lots and lots of apples and oranges, like things that were that single teams.
40 of them.
40, or if you want 40 apples and oranges, brilliant. But if you want
salad.
If you want a fruit salad, really good. Love where we're going with that.
Keep doing it.
Great. So I guess so we're now at we've got a P&T community structure that we're more effective at helping deliver the biggest, most strategic priorities for Autotrader. Maybe you could tell us a bit about what it looks like today then, kind of disciplines, teams.
So I think we're not massive, obviously. There's a great many far bigger organisations, but as Ben says, we're biggish. So we're at a scale where everybody doesn't know everybody intimately as an individual. So I think one of the challenges as you go to kind of one community of this number is where do people feel at home? Where do they do their work? And there's kind of two elements to that. One is the work that you're doing that kind of ships to live, that actually helps a customer or a consumer, and that is your project team. So the things we're working on, the team you go and sit with and talk to, the Jira board you're working on.
And the principles of those are still very, very similar to the principles of a squad.
100%.
Exactly
years
that.
ago.
Like completely, all the kind of like agile principles are at work there. Get all the skills you need, sit together, work together, iterate, release frequently, all this stuff. So that's like your home. That's your number one, like these are my people. But then the other element is the disciplines we have. So as Ben referenced, there are things where we share knowledge and skills, and we need to make decisions that relate to data analytics or relate to front-end engineering or relate to things we have in common from that perspective. So from a discipline perspective, we have disciplines around product, around design and research, around data analytics. And these are at a scale where that group of people can kind of get in a big room together and have a conversation. Engineering,
Bit different. Too big to get in one room and have thinking. Is like we don't have a super rigid like tech stack, so there is differences between like what commonly gets used in consumer use like React is their front end framework, retailer use Angular, so there's different concerns around that. So like we grouped people very much around like the engineering, but also the products that they've got for that customer or consumer or colleague. But we wanted to make it was a bit of envy when we were talking about it. I looked because like the product team used to always do like the little product days and stuff like that, and engineering was always quite too big.
We invited you sometimes.
Did invite
like
me
great
sometimes.
socials, project
All the time.
Yeah.
Product fest, I call it. Design fest. We didn't have
engineering fest.
We didn't have engineering fest, but we'd like so we wanted a bit of like.
Those are important, right? Aren't they?
They are important. Like you get to spend some time together talking about like your craft, your discipline, and like the challenges you're facing, or what new technology we should be looking at in case like engineering and stuff.
And I guess the other thing within engineering, within those engineering domains, they own apps that are live in production. So
so all the cost, it's like the ongoing maintenance that we have to do with them. Like so, we have got stuff that we're not actively developing features for, but it is a key part of Autotrader's estate. So we have to keep all that up to date. We make sure it's released at least once every 60 days on our delivery platform, or we get alerted and shouted at to release your app just to make sure everything's up to date.
So I guess our key kind of organising principles or structures today are teams, cross-functional groups of people that work together, engineers, designers, data scientists, whatever.
Yeah.
But you'll be on that team for a period of time. That team may exist for,
and it might flex up.
It might flex up.
And
it might be a team
down.
that exists for 3 months to deliver a project. It might be a team that exists for 3 or 4 years to deliver a huge.
And then we have like big things like we've been working on for the last couple of years, like the digital retailing thing that cuts across several engineering, like pretty much all of the engineering domains. So we get all them together and all the product people together, and we talk about like they're like big like. I hate using it like the programs of work.
Well, no, it's like the fruit bowl, isn't it? Like some teams are going to be just bigger. So we got our teams which are represented by bits of fruit that we put in the
citrus.
Fruit bowl.
Citrus could be your program, right? For example,
we're really juicing the analogy there. Aren't we?
Go on, we need to drop it now.
And then we've got our disciplines, your home, your craft, and they come together on a periodic basis. And then we've got our P&T community, which has 400 people in.
And we have Mega Day.
And we have a so there's things that we do as a community, but like we need to put a bit more effort into that. So we week before last, we had our annual product and tech community conference, which is just an excellent opportunity to all come together as a broader technology community and learn about other things that are happening in teams or disciplines.
Yeah. So, I think one of the potential kind of tensions, isn't it, is that we've gone for like bigger and bigger units, really, in terms of who's in one community.
Yeah.
So now we've ended up with all of P&T in one community rather than in these subdivisions, and that gives us more flexibility. But it's possible people could perceive that as being, well, it's just like changes all the time. As you said, in reality, that isn't what happens. We have people with expertise in certain applications and ownership. We have product people who know certain areas. We have design people who know about a suite of kind of interactions that people have. And the teams do change, but they don't change week to week. Like, many things will be long lived and they'll just grow and shrink.
It's a nice litmus test that I like. We've talked about as well in P&T Leads. Like, when you speak to someone like, who are you? What do you do? It should be, I'm an engineer in this team, in that domain, in the P&T community. It's
in kind of that order.
In that order.
So we've reflected on several reorgs we've been through over the last decade. Every time you org to fix something, you inevitably create another fault line, which over time gets wider, and you need to kind of look to iterate again on the future. I'm not going to ask you what you think our next org structure looks like, but I guess generally any reflections on like what you've learned through that process over the last decade or two, and any kind of learnings that you take into the inevitable conversation we have at some point in the future around that.
It's like the importance of like the team and the identity that a person holds, and then also how do you maintain a community like feel as you get bigger. It's like it takes a lot more work the bigger you get. It's like that's often the thing that keeps me awake.
I think that's absolutely right. I think the thing for me, we mentioned at the start about org design being a bit like agile, is that you're not going to get the right answer. It's not like we're moving towards landing on the right answer and then we're like, oh, we've solved it. It will, because conditions.
That's when most people
then we'd write a book, and I would retire. The world is changing. Our product changes, the world outside changes, the number of people we have changes, the tech changes. I won't say AI, but like things will be changing all the time. And retrospecting on where you're at and understanding when the downsides of what you're currently doing outweigh the upsides, I think is the key. Like being aware to it and not being like, well, we've got it right now, we'll just leave it like that.
I think it's quite easy though. Like when you first do it, it's like, yeah, this feels great.
This is fun. Yeah.
We fixed it.
Great fix, sorted now. But then like, not long after, you're like, there's that crack. There's a crack there. What we're going to do about this? And I think it's not like, I'm going to say like death by 1,000 cuts, but like that's what kind of like happens. Like you do it, and then the year one comes in, year two comes in, you start seeing cracks, more things get visible. And it's like at that point, it's like it's not you trying to fix something. It's like it's working great.
Evolving, right?
Yeah, it's evolving. Yeah. Like how do we make it? Like this is good. How do we make it better?
Yeah.
Which is like.
And I think when we look at these eras, like it's not that we went, oh god, that was completely wrong then. I'm glad we changed it. Like these things all worked really well. So squads worked really well for us at the time.
Yeah.
And as we've evolved, all these things have worked, and then there's been a point where they don't work so well. So it's not like we go, that was a bad mistake. We evolved from that, but at the time we're not dissing that as a way of working. And for other organisations, that might be the right thing right now. Like it's not
100%.
like we are better or worse than another model. It's the model for your people, your situation at the moment you're in.
There are lots of organisations who like our squads and tribes model will be the right like organising principle for them at the point that they're at or the things that they're trying to achieve.
It's well to me about the Spotify model when it was all super popular at talk and you looked at Spotify, it was actually it's nothing like what it is now. It was a lot simpler, but it's still pretty basic of like you've got your playlist, you've got your player, you've got your list, you've got your search.
Yeah.
You can go, well, that's that team, that's that team, that's that team.
Yeah.
But when you've got 10 different Spotify things that have to work together, it's like...
It's probably quite complicated.
It starts to get more complex. I'm sure it is at Spotify.
I'm sure it is.
And
I've massively oversimplified it and shot myself in the foot here with that.
history tells us that these things generally last for about 2 or 3 years. So maybe we pencil in a roadmap episode for 3 years' time, and we can reflect on the community's era of P&T and on where we've gotten to next.
Maybe we should do the podcast first and then work backwards from there.
Right. Well,
That's a
that
good way
is
to announce it.
that is all we've got time for. Thank you for listening and for allowing us to indulging us with the fruit bowl analogies. Thanks again to Ben and Chris. If you've enjoyed today's podcast, don't forget to follow, subscribe, like and share whenever you get your podcasts, and check out Swarms to Squads and the Eras Tour Medium articles, which go into some of the things we've discussed today in a lot more detail. Maybe we'll put them in the show notes. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ben.